5 years after we got married, my wife lost her memory in a car accident. She looked at me like I was a stranger. The doctor called it retrograde amnesia. But she hadn't just forgotten our marriage. She had reverted to the year we first met, the time when she hated me the most. When the nurse casually remarked, "Your husband is so considerate," she stared at the wedding ring on my ring finger, her gaze instantly turning cold. "You have a wife, yet you're here taking care of another woman? How touching." The smell of disinfectant in the hospital stung my nostrils. I sat on a plastic chair beside the hospital bed, looking at Lin Yuqing, who was still unconscious. Her pale face was covered with gauze, her eyelashes casting tiny shadows under the light. The doctor said she would wake up soon, but there might be problems with her memory. Memory? Problems? My voice was trembling then. Retrograde amnesia, it's quite common. The doctor pushed up his glasses. Usually, patients only forget events around the time of the accident, but it's also possible to regress to an earlier point in time. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. If Lin Yuqing's memory returned to 5 years ago, that would be Mingyuan. A faint call pulled me back to reality. Lin Yuqing opened her eyes, those eyes I loved so deeply, the eyes that had once terrified me. "Yuqing." I practically lunged towards the bedside. "How do you feel? Does anywhere hurt?" She blinked in confusion, her gaze drifting over my face. Suddenly, she smiled, the same smile that made me fall in love at first sight. "Who are you?" Her voice was weak, but curious. "You're very handsome." My heart sank. Not only had her memory reverted 5 years, but she didn't even remember that we had ever met. "I'm Zhou Mingyuan," I said cautiously. "We know each other." "Really?" Her eyes lit up. "When was that? How come I have no impression at all?" "About 5 years ago," I answered vaguely, unsure how much information to reveal. She suddenly struggled to sit up, and I quickly supported her. Up close, I could smell the faint scent of her shampoo, just like the first time we met 5 years ago. "Wait," she frowned. "What year is it now? 2025? Her eyes widened. "I thought it was only 2020. She looked around the room. "Why am I in a hospital? What happened?" I took a deep breath, deciding to tell her part of the truth. "You were in a car accident. The doctor said you might have temporary memory impairment." "Memory impairment," she muttered to herself, then suddenly looked up, staring intently at me. "Then what is our relationship? Why are you here?" The question felt like a knife stabbing into my chest. How should I answer? Tell her we were husband and wife. Tell her about the tangled love and hate we had experienced over the past 5 years? Just as I was hesitating, the nurse pushed the door open and came in. "Ah, Miss Lin, you're awake." The nurse walked over with a smile. "Your husband must be very happy." The air instantly froze. Lin Yuqing's expression shifted from confusion to shock, finally settling into an icy coldness I knew all too well. "Husband," she enunciated clearly, her gaze falling on the wedding ring on my left hand. "You married?" I was speechless, unsure how to explain this absurd situation. My wife discovering I was married, yet not knowing she was my wife. "Yuqing, this is a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" She sneered, her demeanor exactly the same as 5 years ago when she caught me having dinner with a female colleague. "So you have a wife, yet you're here taking care of another woman? How touching." The nurse, realizing her mistake, awkwardly backed out of the room. Lin Yuqing stared hard at me, her chest heaving violently. "Tell me," her voice trembled, "does your wife know you're here? Does she know you're so caring towards other women?" Should I tell her the truth? Tell her, "You're my wife"? But right now, she was like flammable explosives. Any provocation could trigger disastrous consequences. "I can explain." I reached out to soothe her. "Don't touch me." She jerked away, the four-tube swaying violently. I hate liars more than anything, especially those who play with people's feelings. Seeing her fury, my mind drifted back 5 years. She was just like this back then, exploding over a small misunderstanding, turning our first meeting into a farce. In the summer of 2020, at a friend's birthday party, I was captivated by her the moment I saw her, wearing a blue dress, standing alone on the balcony, looking at the stars. I mustered the courage to strike up a conversation. We hit it off, until her best friend joked that I looked like a playboy. Lin Yuqing's expression changed instantly. She splashed red wine on my shirt and stormed off. Later, it took me 3 weeks to regain her trust, but little did I know that was just the beginning. After we started dating, her possessiveness and desire for control gradually emerged, from checking my phone to following me, and even installing monitoring software on my computer. She justified all of it in the name of love. Zhou Mingyuan. Her icy voice pulled me back to reality. Please leave. Yuqing, do you really not remember? I tried to jog her memory. We first met at Chun Mo's birthday party. You wore a blue dress, and we talked about 100 years of solitude. She froze for a moment. Her eyes flickered. How do you know that? Because that person was you, I said softly. We've known each other for 5 years, been married for 2. You were in a car accident, and your memory has reverted to 5 years ago. She looked down at the ring finger of her left hand. There's a faint mark where a ring had been, but the ring was gone, probably lost in the accident. This is impossible, her voice trembled. How can I not remember anything at all? The doctor said memories can return gradually. I took out my phone and pulled up our wedding photo. Look, this is our wedding. She stared at the photo, her lips trembling. In the photo, she, in her wedding dress, was smiling so happily, giving no hint that she would later use GPS to track my movements. Is this me? Her finger lightly touched the screen. I look very happy. You certainly were. I smiled wryly. That day, at least. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with complex emotions. If we really are married, why don't I feel anything for you? The question was like a dull knife slowly sinking into my heart. Should I tell her that her love had long since twisted into a morbid possessiveness? Tell her that I had tried to leave 3 times, each attempt ending with her threatening suicide? Perhaps, because memory is the foundation of emotion, I answered, struggling. You don't remember our shared experiences, so naturally, you don't remember your feelings for me. She nodded thoughtfully, then suddenly asked, was I good to you? I froze. How should I answer? Should I say her making me a packed lunch every day was good? Or that her monitoring my every move was bad? You love me very much, I finally said. It's just that your way of showing it could sometimes be suffocating. She frowned. What do you mean? Just then, the doctor pushed the door open and came in, announcing that Lin Yuqing could be discharged. He recommended she recuperate at home, as familiar surroundings might help restore her memory. Go home. Lin Yuqing looked at me warily. With him. Miss Lin, Mr. Zhou is indeed your legal husband. The doctor explained patiently, the hospital records and your identification documents both prove this. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I handled the discharge procedures. The past 5 years flashed before my eyes like a revolving lantern. The sweet first 6 months, then the gradually revealed possessiveness, finally escalating into a nightmare. And now it was all starting over. Back at the apartment we had shared for 2 years, Lin Yuqing stood at the doorway, unwilling to enter. Is this really my home? She asked softly. Our home, I corrected instinctively, then immediately realized my slip of the tongue. I mean, yes, you live here for 2 years. She stepped inside hesitantly, her gaze sweeping across every corner of the living room. I watched her expression, hoping to see a flicker of recognition, but there was nothing. She looked like she was seeing this space for the first time. Can I see the bedroom? She asked. I nodded, leading her towards the master bedroom. The moment I pushed the door open, Lin Yuqing gasped. The walls were covered with photos of us together, and on the nightstand sat a framed picture from our honeymoon trip. Oh my God! She picked up the frame, trembling. We went to Bali. Yes, 6 months after we got married, I said softly. You always said you wanted to see the sea. She put the frame down and suddenly turned to face me. Tell me the truth. What kind of wife was I? I swallowed hard. The truth? Tell her how controlling she used to be? Or use this opportunity to guide her into being a different kind of partner? You love me very much. I chose my words carefully. Sometimes you got a bit too anxious about me, but your intentions were good. She narrowed her eyes. Was I scary? The question was too direct, leaving me momentarily speechless. Scary? Yes, it was terrifying when she held a utility knife to my neck and said, if you dare leave me, we'll die together. But now, her eyes were clear, like those of a lost child. Everyone has flaws, I finally said. What's important is being willing to change. She nodded thoughtfully, then suddenly reached out and caressed my face. You're very handsome. I think I'll fall in love with you again. The touch made my whole body stiffen. 5 years ago, it was after these exact words that she began to invade my life step by step, eventually imprisoning me in a cage called love. That evening, I offered to sleep on the sofa to give her some personal space. I woke up in the middle of the night to find Lin Yuqing standing by the sofa, her eyes gleaming in the moonlight. I can't sleep, she whispered. Can we talk? I nodded, and she immediately curled up beside me like a small kitten seeking warmth. This closeness filled me with both affection and dread. This was exactly how she was 5 years ago, starting with small gestures, gradually eroding my boundaries. She sighed contentedly, then suddenly looked up. Wait, if we're married, why are you still wearing your wedding ring? But I'm not. Only then did I notice I was still wearing my ring, while the indentation on her left ring finger remained empty. Your ring might have been lost in the accident, I explained. We could buy a new one tomorrow. She suddenly grabbed my left hand. Take off. Now. What? Since I don't even remember our marriage, this ring is meaningless. Her gaze sharpened. Take it off, or I'll think you're pledging loyalty to some other woman. That familiar, suffocating feeling returned. This was exactly how she was 5 years ago, demanding I delete all my female contacts, report my whereabouts daily. Okay, I slowly took off the ring, but you have to remember, this is only temporary. She took the ring, casually stuffed it into her pajama pocket, and leaned back against my chest. This is much better. Her fingers drew circles on my chest. We'll start over, right? Start over. She tilted her head up to look at me, a dangerous glint in her eyes. I will fall in love with you again, even more than before. And you can only love me. Her words were like a curse, reminding me of something else she had once said. Other men would run away, but you understand my love. The next morning, I found Lin Yuqing already up, frying eggs in the kitchen. She was humming a song. Sunlight streamed through the window onto her, like an ordinary, happy wife. Morning. She turned her head and smiled at me. Coffee's on the table. The scene was too perfect, leaving me momentarily dazed, until I noticed a strange ring on her left ring finger. It was my wedding ring, which she had put on her own hand. Like it. She wiggled her finger. Since it's a wedding ring, I should be the one wearing it. I forced a smile, reached for my phone on the table, only to find it missing. Looking for this? Lin Yuqing pulled my phone out of her apron pocket, her smile sweet. Someone called. Bosley called just now. I answered it for you. It was a woman. My heart sank. Bosley is my superior, female, in her 40s, married. What did she say? I tried my best to stay calm. Something about the project's progress. Lin Yuqing handed the phone to me, but her eyes turned dangerous. But I'm very curious. Why do you have so many female contacts in your phone? I took the phone and saw that the contact list had indeed been scrolled through. The nightmare from 5 years ago was repeating itself. It's for work, I answered briefly. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, her nails digging into my skin. Delete them. What? Delete all the women. Her voice was soft but allowed no refusal. Otherwise, how will I know you won't betray me? I looked at the madness in her eyes, knowing that the Yandra Lin Yuqing was awakening. Amnesia hadn't changed her core nature. It had only reset the clock. And I, once again, had become her prisoner. I decided to take Lin Yuqing to the Italian restaurant where we had our first date. Really? Her eyes lit up like a child given candy. The place you said had the best tiramisu? I nodded, but my heart ached with a sharp pang. She remembered the details from 5 years ago, but not the countless times we had come here since, nor the time she had flipped the table because I spoke a few extra words to the waitress. What should I wear? She stood conflicted before the wardrobe, her fingers brushing past rows of clothes, dresses I recognized, the one she bought after we got married. The blue one, I said, the one you wore on our first date. She looked at me in surprise. You remember? Then she stood on tiptoe and kissed my cheek. You're so good to me. The kiss made my heart race, not out of joy, but out of fear. 5 years ago, right at the entrance of this restaurant, she had kissed me for the first time, and thus began our twisted love. The restaurant was the same as ever. Red brick walls, candlelight, the pianist in the corner who was always slightly off-key. I had specifically booked the same spot as back then, a corner table by the window with a view of the entire restaurant, yet not drawing too much attention. Exactly like I remember. Lin Yuqing said softly as she sat down, her fingers tracing the white tablecloth. You were so nervous that day, you knocked over your water glass. I smiled. I didn't tell her that ever since that incident. I made a point of accidentally spilling something every time we came, turning it into a little inside joke between us. When the appetizers arrived, a young waitress poured water for us. She smiled politely at me and said, "Enjoy your meal." It was perfectly normal service, but I felt a chill. Lin Yuqing's gaze followed the girl like daggers. "Do you know her?" Lin Yuqing immediately demanded after the waitress left. "No, I don't. First time seeing her," I answered reflexively, only then realizing I'd responded too quickly, too smoothly, as if I'd rehearsed it countless times. Lin Yuqing narrowed her eyes. "Then why did she smile at you?" "Just a professional smile. She's like that with every table." "Really?" She scanned the restaurant, relaxing slightly only after confirming the girl was indeed smiling at other customers. But her fingers still anxiously twisted her napkin. I reached out and took her hand. "Yuqing, relax. It's just the two of us here." She forced a smile, but her eyes remained wary. Throughout the rest of the dinner, whenever a female server or customer passed by, her body would tense slightly. This reaction was all too familiar, making my stomach clench. When dessert arrived, I decided to distract her. "Try the tiramisu. It's still the original recipe." She scooped a spoonful into her mouth, her eyes instantly crinkling in bliss. "So delicious." Then she naturally scooped another spoonful and held it to my lips. "You try some too." This intimate gesture made me freeze. In the second year of our marriage, she had stopped sharing food with me, saying it was unhygienic. Now she was again the girl willing to share a spoon with me. I opened my mouth to accept the bite, the sweetness of coffee and mascarpone melting on my tongue. Lin Yuqing looked at me and suddenly said, "I think I remember something." "What?" I asked nervously. "I don't know. Just a feeling." She tilted her head, like we were once very happy, but also in a lot of pain. It's so contradictory. My heart pounded. Was this a sign of her memory returning? Or just her intuition? "Don't force it," I said softly. "Just let it come naturally." She nodded, took another bite of dessert, and then suddenly asked, "Can I visit your company tomorrow?" "Why the sudden interest?" I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. "I just want to see where you work." She blinked innocently. "Getting to know your life, isn't that what lovers do?" 5 years ago, the first time she came to my office, she brought a homemade lunchbox, making all my colleagues incredibly envious. 3 months later, she started showing up punctually downstairs at the company building every day, regardless of whether I was in a meeting. One time, I came downstairs 10 minutes late due to a project discussion, only to find her standing in the rain, completely soaked, her eyes vacant. Of course, I heard myself say, "Shall I pick you up for lunch tomorrow noon?" "No need. I'll go myself," she said, smiling. "Just give me the address. I want to give you a surprise." This so-called surprise sent a chill down my spine. But refusing would only arouse her suspicion further, so I had no choice but to nod. On the way home, Lin Yuqing held onto my arm, humming a tune, her steps light. In the darkness, she looked so young and happy, as if the hurt and suspicion between us had never existed. "Ming Yuan," she suddenly stopped walking. If my memory never comes back, what will you do?" I turned to look at her, the streetlights casting dappled shadows across her face. The question was painfully sharp, striking right at my deepest fear. "We'll create new memories," I answered softly. She stared at me for a few seconds, then smiled. "Good answer." Then she continued walking forward, but her grip on my arm tightened. "But I will remember everything." The sentence felt like both a prophecy and a threat. The next morning, I deliberately left half an hour early and messaged my assistant, Xiao Wang, asking her to keep an eye out for Lin Yuqing's arrival. I was distracted all morning, checking my phone every 10 minutes. At 11:45, Xiao Wang messaged, "Mr. Zhou, your wife is downstairs with a lunchbox." I took a deep breath, composed myself, and went downstairs. Lin Yuqing stood in the center of the lobby, wearing a pale yellow dress, her hair loosely pinned up, looking like a housewife from the 1950s. She held a three-tiered lunchbox, and her eyes lit up when she saw me. Ming Yuan, she hurried over. I made your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. A few colleagues passing by cast envious glances. 5 years ago, this scene would have truly inflated my ego, my beautiful, devoted girlfriend bringing me a homemade lunch. But now, I only felt a suffocating fear. Thanks. Let's eat in the conference room. I took the lunchbox and guided her towards the elevator. In the elevator, she leaned close to my ear and whispered, "That woman in the red dress keeps staring at you." I followed her gaze. It was Director Zhang from marketing, a woman in her 50s, absorbed in her phone. Yuqing, that's Director Zhang. Her children are already in university. Really? She pursed her lips. The way she looked at you didn't seem like she was looking at a subordinate. This kind of baseless suspicion was all too familiar, making my stomach knot. When the elevator reached our floor, I practically dragged her out, almost as if escaping. In the conference room, Lin Yuqing enthusiastically laid out the contents of the lunchbox: sweet and sour pork ribs, stir-fried greens, tomato and egg soup, and even a small container of cut fruit. These were all dishes I'd casually mentioned, liking 5 years ago. She actually remembered. "Try some." She watched me expectantly. I picked up a piece of rib. It was delicious. But while enjoying the food, I noticed her peripheral vision scanning my office. Her gaze lingered on every photo of a female employee, swept over every item that might hint at my social life. This wasn't simply lunch delivery, it was reconnaissance. "Your company has so many female employees," she remarked, feigning casualness. "Well, it's an advertising agency. The proportion of women is naturally high." I try to sound casual. "That assistant, Xiao Wang, she's quite pretty. She's very competent." Lin Yuqing narrowed her eyes. "You admire her?" I put down my chopsticks and looked her straight in the eye. "Yuqing, can we make an agreement? No discussing personal matters at the company. Colleagues are just colleagues, nothing more." She paused, then suddenly smiled. "All right, whatever you say." But beneath the table, her fingers twisted the napkin tightly. "I just care about you so much." After lunch, I walked her to the elevators. She suddenly turned, threw her arms around me, and gave me a deep kiss right there in front of everyone. "Come home early tonight," she whispered in my ear, then slipped gracefully into the elevator. Back at my desk, I noticed my drawer had been slightly moved and the order of the files on my desk had changed. In the 2 minutes I'd been in the restroom, Lin Yuqing had completed her reconnaissance. After work, I didn't go straight home. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop on the west side of the city. Dr. Li Xiaoyan was already waiting for me there. She was the psychologist I had been seeing secretly for 3 years, and the only person who knew the truth about my marriage to Lin Yuqing. "How are things?" Dr. Li asked, pushing up her glasses and getting straight to the point. I briefly explained the situation over the past few days, including Lin Yuqing's hostility towards the waitress, her attention towards my female colleagues at the company, and that familiar pattern of controlling behavior. Although her memory has returned to 5 years ago, her behavioral patterns are rapidly resurfacing. Dr. Li noted in his notebook, "This is quite typical. Amnesia doesn't change the core personality." Then what should I do? I tightened my grip on the coffee cup. She's becoming the old Lin Yuqing, only much faster. Dr. Li pondered for a moment. "You have 2 options. One is to help her recover all her memories, including the pathological parts, and then face the treatment together. The second is..." "What's the second?" "Use this opportunity to guide her in establishing new, healthy behavioral patterns. Like reinstalling a computer's operating system. Give her a clean start." I gave a wry smile. "Sounds like brainwashing." "This isn't brainwashing, it's therapy," Dr. Li said seriously. "But the risk is significant. If she suddenly recovers her memory, she might become even more extreme because of your deception." By the time the conversation ended, it was completely dark outside. I checked my watch, 7:30 p.m., an hour later than usual. There were 3 missed calls on my phone, all from Lin Yuqing. I called back, and the phone was answered immediately. "Where are you?" Her voice was surprisingly calm. "Just got off work, heading home now." "Who were you with?" My heart skipped a beat. "No one, just myself." There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then she said, "Okay, be careful on your way." This unusual calmness was more terrifying than hysterics. I quickly said goodbye to Doctor Lee and drove home. On the way, I kept racking my brain, wondering if I had left any evidence. The coffee shop receipt, the scent of perfume in the car, Dr. Lee's contact information. The apartment was pitch black. I turned on the lights and found Lin Yuqing sitting on the sofa, motionless. "Yuqing," I called out tentatively. She slowly looked up, an eerie smile on her face. "You're back." "Yeah, traffic was a bit heavy." I put down my bag and walked toward her. "Have you eaten?" "Not hungry." She stood up, suddenly leaned close, and sniffed me. "Smells like coffee. Did you drink coffee alone?" "Drank it while working late." I kept my composure. "The place downstairs from the office." She stared into my eyes, seemingly trying to judge if I was telling the truth, then suddenly turned and walked toward the bedroom. "I'm going to take a shower." I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the crisis was averted for now, until I opened my phone and found an unread text message from Dr. Lee. "Mr. Zhou, an unknown number just called me." They hung up immediately after I answered without saying anything. "Please be careful." My blood ran cold. Lin Yuqing had found Dr. Lee's contact information? When? How? The sound of the shower stopped. I hurriedly deleted the text message and put my phone on silent. A few minutes later, Lin Yuqing came out wearing pajamas, her hair still dripping wet. She looked unusually calm, even somewhat gentle. "Ming Yuan," she sat down beside me. If I really were a very controlling wife, would you hate me?" The question was so direct it left me momentarily speechless. We all have flaws," I answered cautiously. "What's important is the willingness to change." "But what if I can't change?" she pressed. "What if this is just who I am?" Looking into her moist eyes, I suddenly realized this wasn't a hypothetical question. To some extent, she had already accepted the fact that she was controlling. She just wasn't sure how extreme this trait was. "Yuqing," I took her hand. "I love you, all of you. But love shouldn't be suffocating. It should give freedom." She lowered her head, her long hair hiding her expression. Freedom. Such a luxurious word. That night, after I pretended to fall asleep, I sensed Lin Yuqing quietly get up. She stood by the bedside, her icy fingers brushed across my face, murmuring to herself, "You are mine. Always will be." This scene was all too familiar, sending a chill down my spine. In the second year of our marriage, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and often find her standing there in the darkness watching me, like a dragon guarding its treasure. The next morning, Lin Yuqing acted nonchalantly, as if the unsettling scene from last night had never happened. She hummed as she made breakfast and had even ironed my shirt. "Any plans for today?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I want to go to the library." She handed me a fried egg. I suddenly feel like reading that book we mentioned on our first date. The reason sounded plausible enough, but I noticed she avoided my eyes as she spoke. Before leaving, I made a point of checking my wallet and phone. No sign they had been touched. But when I opened my computer to start working, I found the browser history had been cleared. This wasn't my habit. It could only have been Lin Yuqing. At the office, I was on edge. Dr. Lee's words kept replaying in my mind. Help her establish new behavioral patterns. But how? The current Lin Yuqing was neither the possessive wife from before her total amnesia, nor simply the woman she was 5 years ago, but a dangerous hybrid, possessing early memories, yet rapidly developing later behavioral patterns. At noon, I received a photo from Lin Yuqing. She was at the library, holding 100 Years of Solitude, with bookshelves packed with books in the background. It looked completely normal, except for the blurry figure in the corner of the photo, Dr. Lee. My phone nearly slipped from my hand. Was Lin Yuqing stalking Dr. Lee, or was it a coincidence? How did she know Dr. Lee would be at the library today? I immediately sent Dr. Lee a message. "Were you at the library today?" The reply came a few minutes later. "Yes, I was giving a mental health lecture. I thought I saw your wife in the audience earlier, but I wasn't sure." He wasn't mistaken. Lin Yuqing was indeed there, and it wasn't a coincidence. She must have found out Dr. Lee's schedule somehow. When work ended, I decided to go straight home and confront her. But when I pushed open the door to our home, I was met with the sight of candlelight and a table laden with food. Lin Yuqing was wearing the first dress I ever gave her, her hair down, looking breathtakingly beautiful. "Happy anniversary," she said, smiling. What anniversary? I asked, confused. The day we first kissed. She stepped closer. 5 years ago today, outside that Italian restaurant. I had completely forgotten the date, but she remembered, or rather, she had remembered the day of our kiss 5 years ago. This stark contrast sent a chill down my spine. She could lovingly celebrate an anniversary while secretly investigating my therapist. Throughout dinner, she kept reminiscing about the sweet moments from the beginning of our relationship, fragments that were genuinely beautiful. I played along with her memories, but my heart felt heavy as stone. Ming Yuan, she said suddenly as dessert was served. If one day I recover all my memories, turned back into that wife you spoke of, will you leave me? In the candlelight, her eyes shone with a dangerous glint, part probing, part threat. No, I heard myself say, I'll stay with you, no matter what. She smiled, satisfied, reaching out to stroke my face. I knew it. You're different. Her words felt like a curse, reminding me of something else she had once said. Other men would run away, but you understand my love. Late at night, I pretended to be asleep and felt Lin Yuqing get up again. This time, she picked up my phone. I didn't stop her, just observed her through slightly open eyelids. She skillfully entered the passcode. How did she know it? Scrolling through my contacts and message history. Suddenly, she stopped, her body trembling slightly. I squinted and saw the screen displaying my text messages with Dr. Li, the one asking about the library. Lin Yuqing slowly put down the phone and turned towards me. In the moonlight, I saw a familiar yet strange expression appear on her face. It was the expression of the Yandere Lin Yuqing, a mixture of anger, pain, and a twisted affection. Ming Yuan, she said softly, knowing I might be awake, you lied to me. My heart almost stopped. At that moment, I didn't know if I was facing the amnesiac Lin Yuqing or my wife, who had regained her memory. The only thing certain was, danger was approaching. Lin Yuqing's voice in the darkness was like an icy blade. You lied to me. I kept my breathing steady, pretending to still be asleep, but every muscle in my body was tense. Moonlight slipped through the gap in the curtains, outlining her silhouette standing by the bed. Long hair loose, my phone clutched in her hand. I know you're awake. She chuckled lightly, her fingers brushing my cheek, cold as a snake. Explain, who is this Dr. Li? I slowly opened my eyes. The Lin Yuqing before me now was completely different from the one during the day. Her eyes were sharp, the corners of her mouth held that familiar, chilling smile. This wasn't the amnesiac Lin Yuqing. This was my wife with her memory restored. You remember? I asked tentatively. Remember? She tilted her head, the gesture looking eerie in the moonlight. I never forgot, Ming Yuan. It's just that the naive me during the day thinks she forgot. My blood ran cold. Not memory recovery, but a split personality. Amnesiac Lin Yuqing by day, and the complete Yandere wife by night. You've been acting all along. I slowly sat up, putting distance between us. Not entirely. She sat down on the edge of the bed, fiddling with my phone. The daytime me genuinely doesn't remember, like living 5 years ago. But whenever night falls, all the memories return. She suddenly leaned close, her breath on my face, including your betrayal of secretly contacting a psychologist. I instinctively shrank back, my back hitting the headboard. I didn't betray you. I was just seeking help. Help, she sneered. Complaining about your wife to another woman? That's called cheating, Ming Yuan. Dr. Li is just a professional. Professional? She swiped the phone, pulling up a photo, a side profile of Dr. Li giving a lecture at the library. She's quite pretty, looks so good for her 40s, no wonder you. Enough. I suddenly raised my voice, immediately regretting my impulsiveness. Lin Yuqing's expression instantly darkened. She slowly stood up, looking down at me. It's been 3 years, and you still haven't learned to obey. Those words hit me like a bucket of ice water. In the 3rd year of our marriage, she started using the word obedient to describe my level of submission to her. The consequence of not being obedient was usually the silent treatment, crying fits, or worse, like the time she held a utility knife to her own wrist, saying she wouldn't live if I stopped loving her. Yuqing, I forced myself to remain calm. We need to talk. Your situation is very unusual. It requires professional. I don't need anyone, she suddenly screamed, slamming the phone hard against the wall, the screen shattering on impact. I only need you. Only you. After shouting, she collapsed to the floor as if drained of all strength and began to sob. This extreme emotional shift was all too familiar to me. Anger, breakdown, then showing weakness, the entire process designed to evoke my guilt and pity. I took a deep breath, got out of bed, and walked over to her, but didn't dare touch her. I'm going to sleep in the guest room. We'll talk tomorrow. No. She threw her arms around my legs. Don't go. Please don't go. I was wrong. Watching her trembling shoulders, 5 years of habit almost made me instinctively want to comfort her. But reason told me this time was different. If she truly possessed a dual consciousness, any compromise would only make things worse. I gently pried her hands away. Good night, Yuqing. The moment the guest room door clicked shut, I heard heart-wrenching cries and the sound of things smashing from the master bedroom. I leaned against the door, slowly sliding down to sit on the floor, my hands trembling uncontrollably. This wasn't depression, not anxiety, but a more severe personality disorder. Amnesia hadn't cured her. Instead, it had created a more dangerous situation. By day, I faced an innocent lover. By night, an obsessive wife, and neither was aware of the other's existence. At 3 a.m, everything finally fell silent. I quietly pushed open the master bedroom door. Lin Yuqing was curled up asleep on the bed, tear tracks still visible on her face, surrounded by shattered lamp fragments and a torn pillow. I tiptoed around, cleaning up the mess, then retrieved a travel bag from the top of the wardrobe and started stuffing necessities into it. It was time to leave, but when I turned around, I found Lin Yuqing sitting up in bed, watching me quietly, her eyes clear. You're leaving? She asked softly, her voice devoid of anger, filled only with deep sorrow. I froze, unsure how to answer. Which Lin Yuqing was this? The daytime one or the nighttime one? I was just packing some things, I finally said. She shook her head, fresh tears welling up. No, you're leaving me, just like the last time and the time before that. This was clearly the Lin Yuqing with all her memories. I put the bag down, deciding to try reasoning with her one last time. Yuqing, you need help. This dual state isn't normal. We can find a doctor together. And then what? She interrupted me. Let the doctor turn me into someone else? Make the daytime me disappear forever? Or the other way around? I was speechless. In truth, I hadn't even considered that question. I just wanted to escape this nightmare. Do you know why I love you, Mingyuan? She got out of bed barefoot and walked towards me. Because everyone else runs away, but only you. Even when you're scared, you stay. That wasn't true. I had tried to leave, but each attempt ended with her threatening suicide. But now, looking at her swollen eyes and vulnerable expression, I felt a pang of heartache. Lie down, I finally said. We'll talk tomorrow. She obediently returned to bed. I tucked her in, and just as I was about to leave, she grabbed my wrist. Don't go. Just for tonight. I promise I won't. Do anything. I should have refused, but some twisted sense of responsibility made me stay. I lay down on the far side of the bed, my back to her, my whole body tense. Mingyuan, she whispered behind me, if only one me could remain, who would you want it to be? The question was too cruel. The daytime Lin Yuqing was innocent and lovely, but lived in a false reality. The nighttime Lin Yuqing possessed a real, yet twisted love. Choosing either felt like murder. Sleep. I closed my eyes. We'll talk tomorrow. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains, falling on my face. I opened my eyes and found Lin Yuqing was already up. Stepping out of the bedroom, I heard humming coming from the kitchen. It was that pop song she loved 5 years ago. Morning. Seeing me, she flashed a bright smile, as if nothing happened last night. Fried eggs or boiled? I stared at her blankly. She didn't remember at all. It felt like switching between parallel universes. In one world, I was the controlled husband. In the other, the deeply loved partner. Fried eggs, I finally said, deciding to go along with her state for now. During breakfast, she enthusiastically talked about today's plans, going to the supermarket, watching a movie, trying a new recipe. I responded mechanically, my eyes constantly glancing at the clock on the wall, calculating how many hours were left until nightfall. You're acting strange today, she said suddenly. Are you too tired from work? I put down my coffee cup. Yuqing, about last night. You really don't remember? Last night, she frowned. We just watched a movie and went to sleep. As expected, I took a deep breath, deciding to probe. About Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee. Her expression was blank. Who's that? Just as I hesitated whether to continue, her phone rang. She glanced at it. Her face suddenly turned deathly pale, and the phone slipped from her hand, falling to the floor. What's wrong? I bent down to pick up the phone. On the screen was Dr. Lee's photo, the exact one the other her had taken last night. Who is this? Lin Yuqing's voice trembled. Why is on my phone? I don't remember taking this picture at all. Her breathing grew rapid, her fingers unconsciously clutching the tablecloth. Ming Yuan, is something wrong with me? Sometimes I suddenly lose time and wake up to find I've done strange things. This was the first time the daytime Lin Yuqing realized her own abnormality. Should I tell her the truth? Or continue this absurd charade? You've been under too much stress lately. I finally chose to soothe her. Maybe it's sleepwalking. She shook her head, tears welling up. No, it's not just that. I distinctly remember wearing a blue dress yesterday, but this morning I found a yellow one hanging in the closet. And she pointed trembling toward the study. I never used that computer, but my fingerprints are on the keyboard. My heart sank. She was discovering the clues herself. At this rate, she would soon realize the truth, or worse, the two personalities would begin to become aware of each other's existence. I'll get you a glass of water. I stood up and walked towards the kitchen, taking the opportunity to quickly send Dr. Lee a text message. Emergency. Lin might have dissociative identity disorder. Different personalities during day and night. Please call back ASAP. Just as the message was sent, I heard a loud crash from the living room. I rushed out to find Lin Yuqing standing at the study door, a pile of files scattered at her feet, files she had pulled from the locked drawer, all the records I had collected about her pathological behavior. What is this? She held up a sheet of paper detailing her stalking of me last year. You're spying on me. No, that was you. My words caught in my throat. Her expression was changing, from confusion to shock, then to an eerie calm. When she looked up again, her eyes had completely changed. Found your little secret, hubby, the nighttime Lin Yuqing said with a smile. So you've been documenting my crimes all along. The personality switch happened in an instant. I took a few steps back, my back against the wall. Yuqing, we need help. This situation is dangerous. Dangerous? She chuckled lightly, casually flipping through those files. Compared to what you've prepared, this is what's dangerous. She walked to the desk, took a notebook from the bottom drawer. Know what this is? My diary. It records your every move, every lie you tell, and she tilted her head. Appropriate punishments. A chill ran down my spine. So she had been recording my mistakes and corresponding punishments, silent treatment, crying fits, threats of self-harm. Systematic like some twisted reward and punishment chart. Look, last Tuesday you had dinner alone with Assistant Wong. She pointed cheerfully at a page. The punishment was ignoring you for 3 days. Worked well, didn't it? That dinner was a project celebration banquet. The entire team of over a dozen people was there. But in her twisted perception, it became a betrayal requiring punishment. Yuqing, my voice trembled. This isn't a normal marital relationship. This is control and abuse. Love is control, she said decisively. If you really loved me, you wouldn't be afraid of me knowing everything. I was all too familiar with this logic. 4 or 5 years, she had used the same reasoning to justify all her actions. Checking my phone was caring. Stalking was concern. Threats were expressions of love. I'm leaving, I heard myself say. This time for real. Her smile vanished. No, you won't. I will. I looked straight in her eyes. I've already contacted a lawyer and a therapist. You can choose to get treatment, or... I took a deep breath. We get a divorce. Divorce? She scoffed as if hearing a joke. You think it's that simple? She suddenly lunged towards the bedside table, pulling out a utility knife, the same one from the last time she threatened suicide. I'd rather die than let you leave. This scene was too familiar, almost like an absurd replay. I gave in last time, and the time before that. But this time was different. I saw the fear in her eyes. She actually knew this trick wouldn't work anymore. Then do it, I said calmly, turning towards the door. But remember, this time it's your choice, not mine. Behind me came heart-wrenching cries, then the dull thud of something heavy hitting the floor. I turned around to see Lin Yuqing curled up on the floor, the utility knife dropped beside her, her whole body convulsing violently. Yuqing! I rushed over and held down her spasming body. What's wrong? Her jaw was clenched tight. White foam escaped the corners of her mouth. Her eyes rolled back, showing only the whites. An epileptic seizure. The doctor had warned about potential after effect from the car accident. I immediately dialed 120, then followed first aid guidelines to turn her onto her side to prevent choking. During the long 10 minutes waiting for the ambulance, holding her trembling body, I suddenly realized a terrible truth. Even after all the distortion and hurt, I still couldn't just watch her die. After the paramedics arrived, I went with them in the ambulance to the hospital. In the emergency room, when the doctor asked about her medical history, I hesitated. Should I tell them about the dual personality? That might get her sent to the psychiatric ward. She has had memory problems recently. I finally said, sometimes her behavior is abnormal. The doctor nodded, seemingly attributing it to symptoms of epilepsy. Test results showed abnormal electrical discharges in her temporal lobe, possibly an after effect of the car accident, requiring further observation. By the time Lin Yuqing was wheeled into the ward, it was already dark. I sat by the bed, looking at her pale face, my mind racing. This might be the perfect chance to escape. While she was hospitalized, I could pack my things and leave, maybe even move to another city. No surveillance, no threats, true freedom. But as I got up to leave, her hand suddenly grabbed the corner of my clothes. Don't go, she said weakly, her eyes half open. Please. It wasn't an order, not a threat, but a fragile plea. I looked down at her and found her gaze was neither the innocence of the day nor the paranoia of the night, but a strange calmness. Do you know who I am? I asked tentatively. Ming Yuan. She frowned slightly, seeming to struggle to think. My husband. We've been married 5 years. I held my breath. Do you remember anything else? Like last night's argument. She shook her head, looking confused. Only fragments. Like a dream. She suddenly gripped my hand tighter. But I remember. I love you. Even when I'm not normal. Those words struck me like lightning. This was the first time she had acknowledged her not normal state. Perhaps the seizure had unexpectedly broken down the barriers between her personalities, allowing the two Lin Yuqings to begin merging. A nurse came in to check her vital signs and tactfully indicated that visiting hours were over. I got up to leave, but ran into Dr. Li, who had hurried over at the doorway. I saw your text message, she said in a low voice. How was she doing? I briefly explained the seizure and the subsequent changes. Dr. Li looked thoughtful. Temporal lobe epilepsy can sometimes cause religious experiences or personality changes. Perhaps this seizure unexpectedly cured her. I gave a wry smile. It's not that simple. Of course not, Dr. Li nodded. But it could be a turning point. She needs professional treatment now, and she also needs. She looked at me meaningfully. Your decision. I knew what she meant. Stay or leave. Staying meant a long treatment process, possible relapses, maybe falling back into the nightmare. Leaving meant living forever with guilt, worrying about hearing news of her self-destruction one day. Back in the empty apartment, I mechanically cleaned up the mess from last night. As I picked up her torn diary, a piece of paper that wasn't completely destroyed caught my eye. Ming Yuan mentioned divorce again today. If he really leaves, I'll make him regret it for the rest of his life. Plan. Step 1. Release his private photos. Step 2. Send false accusations to his boss. Step 3. The paper slipped from my trembling hands. This was the real threat. Not suicide, but destroying everything I had. The nighttime Lin Yuqing had planned it all along. If I left, she would ruin my reputation. But the current Lin Yuqing, the woman in the hospital bed who admitted she wasn't normal, would she still carry out this plan? The next morning, I returned to the hospital with a bouquet of sunflowers. Lin Yuqing was already awake and eating breakfast. Seeing me, her eyes lit up, then quickly dimmed again. You came, she said softly. I thought you wouldn't come back. I put down the flowers and sat by the bed. How are you feeling? Like I had a very long nightmare. She looked down at her hands. The doctor said I have symptoms of schizophrenia. She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. I did terrible things to you, didn't I? The question was too direct. Should I tell her the truth? About the surveillance, the threats, the psychological abuse? Or give her a chance for a fresh start? The important thing is that you're willing to get help now, I answered cautiously. She grasped my hand. Will you stay with me? The treatment will be long. Outside the window, the sunlight was bright, illuminating her pale face. In this moment, she was neither the innocent lover nor the paranoid and frantic wife, but someone who had finally realized she was ill. I will, I heard myself say, but on one condition. What condition? Truth. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more threats. I looked straight into her eyes. Otherwise, I'll leave immediately and never look back. She was silent for a long time, finally nodding lightly. I agree. Then she asked hesitantly, then, do you still love me? I didn't answer immediately. Love was too complex a word, containing too much pain and fear. But as I looked at her expectant eyes, some deep-rooted connection kept me from denying it completely. I'll stay with you, I finally said. As for the rest, we'll take it slow. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was all I could give. Maybe one day, when the treatment works, when trust is rebuilt, when the nightmare is truly over, I will find a way to love her again. Or maybe I won't. But regardless, this was already a new beginning. Not as prisoner or guard, but as two scarred people try to rebuild something upon the ruins that might be called love. The end.